The new rankings are out. It's the first rankings of the 2020 college football season. I've got them all here for you, along with all the commentary. Georgia checks in at number 4. Who's number 1? And how many of these teams do the Dogs have to play on their way in their quest to win another championship? Dean Legge from Dog Post making you a smarter Georgia fan. You know, I got to say I was slightly surprised by the number 1 team, which is Clemson. The Tigers coming into the season as the number 1 team. They got 38 first place votes, and that was enough to get them past Ohio State, who came in at number 2. Alabama number 3, Georgia 4, LSU 5. Let's focus on that top 5. Obviously, Georgia and Bama will play one another. Bama and LSU will play one another. So Alabama, you would say, I mean, they have the hardest schedule right off the bat of anyone in the country because they also play number 11 Auburn, as well as everyone else in the SEC, which includes number 13 Texas A&M. Now, while I'm recording this, I don't know who the 2 additional teams are that each SEC team is going to play. So if Georgia picks up Texas A&M, you know, that's a whole nother conversation because that would mean that Georgia would play every ranked team in the SEC except LSU. But that's neither here nor there. What do you think about this grouping, the top 5? I mean, I think it's about right. I mean, I think you come to the season, it's got to either be Clemson or Ohio State. I mean, they have the easiest path compared to the SEC schools. And, you know, they both ended the season last year with 1 loss. Clemson's not exactly replacing a lot on offense. They got plenty there on that front. Defense maybe has some issues here and there. Ohio State, obviously, the only question it seems to me like with Ohio State is, you know, are they going to play a season in the Big Ten? That's the only conference that's been, you know, saber rattling about if they're going to play a season. We don't know if any of these. We don't know if the season's going to conclude. But coming into the year, again, your top 10. Let me just go in order: Clemson, Ohio State, Bama at 3, Georgia at 4, LSU, Oklahoma, Penn State at 7. The Gators are at 8, Oregon at 9, and Notre Dame at 10. The difference between Georgia and LSU was not a lot coming into this thing. So Alabama jumps up into the top 5 after not finishing in the top 5 last year. There's some Bama stuff there. I mean, it's just like Bama bettors and so forth. So the coach is giving Alabama plenty of support coming into this season. But I mean, do you think 4 is about right for Georgia? That's where Las Vegas has the Dogs positioned. I think it's about right for Georgia. Now, what you look at when you see this whole thing, though, is this is going to be a difficult road through the SEC. And that you're adding 2 more games. I mean, Alabama's got a tough schedule. I don't see, I mean, you know, they're going to play 4 top 13 teams, if I'm not mistaken. They play Georgia, LSU, Auburn, and Texas A&M. I mean, Clemson, they got Notre Dame, and that's it. So, you know, what you're seeing now, and these rankings reflect that, is the path through this league in the SEC is tough. Now, for Georgia, and again, we don't know the full schedule. When you know the full schedule, I'll do a full breakdown. But when you look at where the Dogs are at, I mean, if this is how it finished, that would mean that Alabama would have won the conference and Georgia had been the runner-up, but they both would have gotten in the college football championship, playoff championship. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I mean, I think that if there's a league that gets in to, it would be the SEC. But I'm having a hard time seeing. I mean, I think the winner of the ACC, which should be Clemson, but we don't know that as firmly as we have in the past because they've got to beat Notre Dame in a game that matters at the end of the season, the ACC championship. That, I mean, you still have to think it would be Clemson that would win that game. But the winner of that championship game, the ACC championship game, that team will go. The Big 12 champion will probably go unless there's all sorts of self-destruction in the Big 12. We know for sure, no question, that the winner of the SEC championship game is going to be in the playoff. And I mean, I don't see how Ohio State / the winner of the Big Ten doesn't get in. I mean, Ohio State is not dealing with a lot of difficulty here. I mean, they will play Penn State. and they will play Michigan. Michigan was ranked number 15. But there's not a lot. I mean, there's not a lot in anyone else's way except in the SEC. And if you're a Clemson guy that's jumping on here, or you like Texas or something, just look, I don't care. Save your vitriol for someone else. You know what I'm saying is true. I mean, the reality is, this is like a Milli Vanilli song. You know, again, Bama at 3, Georgia at 4, LSU at 5, the Gators at 8, Auburn at 11, which to me is a little bit, and then Texas A&M at 13. 6 of the top 13 teams in the country are coming from the SEC. For me, LSU is a little bit high. I think Florida's about right. Auburn, to me, that seems high, but I got to say, if Bo Nix plays well, I could see where Auburn would be a lot of trouble this season. But Auburn is not in the it doesn't seem to me like for the whole season that Auburn's going to be at the level of Bama, Georgia, and LSU. We'll see. I don't think they're at the level of Florida either. So they got that about right. And then, Texas A&M at 13. But who are you going to put over them? This is the game we play, right? Who goes over those teams? I'm like, if you're gonna say, well, Auburn doesn't deserve to be at 11, are you gonna put Texas over them? I mean, what has Texas done besides to win over Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which is all we ever hear about? What have they done in the last decade? I mean, this season is put up or shut up time for Texas. Michigan, who is right behind them, it's put up or shut up time. No one wants to hear about Michigan anymore. Like, leave the cleats at the door, Jim Harbaugh, and let's just win a game that matters. I just, I see where the ACC really struggled to get teams in here. If you did not include Notre Dame, okay, then you only have Clemson at 1. And so North Carolina, Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Notre Dame. So Notre Dame's not a traditional ACC team, but you have to include them this year because they're playing in it. You're seeing this thing shape up. And honestly, Oklahoma over LSU, behind LSU, I don't know. We'll see. But it does seem like, to me, you understand who the best 4 teams are coming into this thing. And some people would say, it's 2 and then the other 2. I don't know about that. I think Clemson and Ohio State are the most favored to get to the college football playoff because they're not playing in the SEC. Their paths are simple. They have to win their championship games. The SEC is the same way, but you might not get to your championship game. And, who's really standing in Notre Dame's way in the ACC? If Clemson and Notre Dame, whoever loses that game, they should still play for the ACC championship. It's structured this year the way the Big 12 has always been. The SEC, if you don't win your division, you're not in. Could you see someone back their way in like Alabama did in 2017? Alabama's backed their way in twice in the last decade. So, yeah, I could see it, particularly if it's Alabama. But this might not be the same type of Alabama as we've seen in the past. Is Florida finally going to break through? I can't believe I'm saying that. Are the Gators, for so long, it was Florida who was on top in the East. Are the Gators going to break through and beat Georgia? Is that something that's going to happen? If that doesn't happen, they are probably almost certainly not going to get to Atlanta for the championship game. And of course, we've got to have a season in order to get to these championship games. But Clemson's got to be your favorite in the ACC. Ohio State is your favorite, and I think clear favorite in the Big Ten. In the SEC, it seems like it's a big mess between Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and LSU. The Big 12, it looks like it's Oklahoma's to lose. What else is new? But in the Pac-12, you've got some real sour football out there. Oregon won the Rose Bowl last year. Their only real competition seems to be USC. There's the other Pac-12 team that's in this is Utah, but Utah lost to Oregon. I don't know. The other question is this going to be about who are the most deserving 4 teams or who are the best 4 teams? Because as we saw in 2018, that's not how it went. They took the most deserving, which did not mean they were the best. And I think, the College Football Playoff Committee has got to decide what is reality. Is this about putting the best 4 teams in there? Because 3 of the best 4, or well, certainly 2 of the best 4 could be from the SEC West, let alone the SEC. So let's just see what happens here. I mean, Oklahoma kind of spilling their way into the college football playoff. I don't know how long we're going to keep that up for. But this is a long diatribe. To recap, do you think that Georgia at number 4, do you think that's the right place for them? I think it's about right. But here's a 2020 playlist for you, just in case. I think you're going to want to hear more about the Dogs, stuff like that. It's right there. Click it. We'll see you over there on that playlist.